I think everyone is excited to see my next guest back in action. He's going to be taking on Charles Johnson now, January 14th, UFC Fight Night. It is Jimmy Flick joining me here on the program. Jimmy, how are you?
Hey man, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, is really excited to talk to you. I was talking to you off air. I've known about you for years, even before you were in the UFC. I'm really glad we could finally do this. But I think for people who are watching this, they remember that you had retired in 2020 and you've decided to come back. You did a great interview with my buddy Mike Heck. If people haven't seen it, go check that out on MMA Fighting. But give me the Coles notes. What made you first off retire, and what made you decide to come back for people who might not know?
All right. Well, for a long time, when I started in this sport, I started with my father. We started training together, got into jiu-jitsu together, and he's been in my corner for almost every fight prior to like the last 5 years of having some ups and downs in our lives. And I always felt like I was fighting for his love, fighting to get my dad back. On top of having a family, I had two kids. I had a wife, like so family, And I think 2020, I had a great year. I did everything I wanted to. I had three goals, and that was to not drink pop, to make over $100,000, and to make it to the UFC. I did all three, and I don't think I had any other goals after that. When I accomplished those goals, and I didn't feel like my father wanted to be there. I felt like my family wanted me there more. I was gone too much, work a full-time job and fight. And so I just hung it up, man. I thought that's what I wanted. I thought that's what my family wanted. And 2 years later, I'm back. Family life changed a little bit, and my main motivation is my two little girls. I got a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old, and was pretty down for a little bit. And I asked them what they thought about if Daddy got back to fighting, and they were excited about it. And that's the only approval I needed was my daughters. And once they gave me that approval, I got back in the gym. And then shortly after that, the UFC called and was like, "We heard you're ready to come back." And I was like, well, yeah, I am. Let's do it. And the rest is history.
Yeah, and we're excited, man, because again, when you got in the UFC, there was a lot of, we hadn't seen the finished product yet, right? Because you had just got in, you just had that one fight against a Cody Durden, so really excited about that. And yeah, kind of what I gathered from that article as well is that this is what makes you happy. It's ultimately what you want to do, and so it's good to see you back here. And I remember again that interview I think with Mike was back in July. Was this the right time to come back? Were you looking to come back sooner? Like, take me through sort of the timeline of when you wanted to fight once you decided to come back.
Well, to be honest, I just got back in the gym, and once I got back in the gym, and I knew I missed it. I loved it, and it was everything I needed to be able to cope with what I was going through in life, and to not end up being everything I always thought I was going to be. Addicted to drugs, the life I came up in, and I felt like I was going to go back to that life if I didn't come back to fighting. And when I chose to come back to fighting, the gears changed, and now currently I do this full time. I just quit my job. My sponsors are really helping me out, taking care of me. So now we're just ready to go fight, and I'm excited to be back. And I just want to do this with everything I got now.
You're all in, man. And the best part about that is you'll never have any regrets because you're completely 100% in this thing. Have you noticed a difference just because you were trying to balance a work like a day job and fighting before? Now you're all in. Have you seen the difference in the gym and I'm sure just putting your mind at ease, not having to worry about running around so much?
Oh man, it's so much easier. I've already trained twice today, and
Oh, awesome. Okay.
so we set up this interview. Then I'll take a nap, get my kids, go to the gym tonight, and it's awesome. It's worked out really great. I got a passion to be back at the gym. I get to relax. UFC hooked me up with the Icon Meals.
Nice.
People that know me know I'm a very picky eater, and never a day in my life have I ever ate broccoli until last night. And my coaches, they couldn't believe it. My teammates, everybody, they're like, "There's no way Jimmy's eating broccoli." So they gave me supplements, and I feel like my body is just going to be at a totally different level, especially with not working. So I got 4.5 more weeks of no job and just ripping it, and I'm excited.
And a change in opponent. You were supposed to fight Jeff Molina. Now you get to fight Charles Johnson. How much of an adjustment was that in terms of strategy and just camp and everything in general?
Well, obviously Charles Johnson is a completely different fighter than Jeff Molina, and but my game plan's always the same. and that's to finish the fight. It doesn't matter where I finish it. I've got 16 wins and 14 of them by finish. So I plan on keeping that streak alive. My last fight that went to a decision, it didn't go my way, and I haven't been to a decision since. So my plans is to do any and everything in my power to get the finish. On top of it, Charles Johnson's never been finished, so it would be amazing to go in there 2 years after comeback or 2 years layoff and come back and finish somebody like Charles Johnson.
Training camp. Let's talk about that. Who have been some of the main guys that have been helping you get ready for this fight?
Man, well, actually, he just fought for the BYB bare knuckle title last weekend. Feel like he got robbed on the decision. My boy LT Nelson. It's like Lamont Nelson. Man, the guy, he's an MMA fighter. He's a bare knuckle boxer. He's boxing. He's a kickboxing world champ. He fights at 155. He's a little bigger than me, but for the stand up that we get and the work I get with him is great. We have a lot of amateurs. Christian Hightower. I was fighting Jeff El Jefe, and my main training partner is Jeff El Jefe, and he's amateur. He fights at 125 as well. And so we had that going for us leading up to this. But man, I have so many great training partners. I go and try to get work with the wrestlers around here as well. Coach Leo helps bring people in, and everybody keeps asking if I'm going anywhere. I ain't going nowhere. It ain't broke. Don't fix it. I love the attention I get, the training partners we have, and the fight camp I have. So it's going great. We got 4.5 more weeks to prepare for Charles, and I'll be more than ready.
And you mentioned the Icon meals. How's the weight cut going? Again, you don't really, it's one less thing you have to worry about. You got people monitoring your weight. They're giving you the meals. I'm sure that's not even like a factor in this, right?
Nah, man. Like, they sent me like 20 something meals. So it's like, gang, man. And like I could eat 3 meals that are compared to the calories that I usually take on the meals that I were eating. So I was far off from what I can really take in and what I can't. So it's going to help out so much. I don't have to cook. I mean, the meals are so good that I have a 10-year-old daughter that eats them. Okay. So, and I even have a local, meal prep, Shark Bite meal prep here in Oklahoma, and they hooked me up with the extra 10 meals as well. So like I don't have to cook.
Got it covered, man. I love it.
Yeah. So and then I got supplements and everything straight from the UFC, so I don't have to worry about like testing positive for nothing, and everything's came straight from them. It's like it's a dream come true, man. And I didn't take advantage of all this even when I was in the UFC because I was working a full-time job. I didn't know what I had at my hands. So like I can still go to the PI if I want to after this camp. I'm hoping to, go out there and get all that extra training and stuff out there they do as well.
It's awesome, man. And who's going to be in your corner for this fight?
Coach Leo from Forza Combat Sports. He's my Muay Thai coach, my mental coach, my coach all around. My best friend, Mike Jackson, he's been my corner for the last 5 years. He just knows me, and I can hear his voice from anywhere. It doesn't matter if there's 10,000 fans or no fans like it's been. So I can hear his voice. And then my father's back, man. We've been working a relationship, kindled some stuff, and family's doing good. So my father will be in my corner. It'll be the first time in like 5 years I had my father in my corner. So all the doors are coming together, man.
How's this fight playing out on January 14th?
Oh, I'm finishing him, no doubt, man. And I want to break the history books. I don't care, what it is. If it's another flying submission, if it's a submission that's never been done, the Von Flick, because that's what I call it. It doesn't matter, man. I want either way. I want to win the fight, but my main goal every time I'm training and I'm in camp, it's push, push, push to finish the fight. Because we seen the judges last week. We've seen the judges time. Like it just ain't worth it, man. And I mean, nothing against Charles Johnson, but he knows the feeling. I mean, he's coming off of a split decision, and then he lost the decision before that. So I'm sure Charles don't want to hit the scorecards either. So I think we're going to go in there. We're going to scrap. It could be a potential fight of the night. We're starting off the year, January 14th. This is the first card. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Speaking of which, what did you think of that decision last week with Paddy Pimblett?
Man, I mean, I think he lost. I mean, especially me being a ground guy, but like with my ground, that's why I always go to finish. You know, that's why I have the record on the Tuesday Night Contender for the most submission attempts ever. Is because I go to finish. And it doesn't matter if it's the first, second, or third. And in my career, I've finished fights in every round. So I've even fought championship rounds. I didn't finish in the championship rounds, but that's the only fight that I went to a decision. So, like, I've done it all, man. I've had the experience. I've been in the sport over a decade. I think the layoff worked out great for me to go lay out for 2 years, realize what I really want, how bad I want this, everything I worked for to get there, to just give it up. I never thought I'd do that. So for the opportunity to come back, I don't regret nothing. I'm glad I made every decision I made, because if I wouldn't have, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be getting ready to come back January 14th.
Before we get you out of here, man, again, you're back in the UFC, back in action. Do you have any goals for next year? You talked about how you achieved all your goals, in 2020 when you got in the UFC and all that. Do you have any goals set yet for next year, for 2023?
Yep, I have 3 fights left on my UFC contract. Starting in January is my first fight. I want to end that contract in 2023 in the top 10 in the UFC. So that's my 2 goals right there, to, fight 3 times in my contract, and then hopefully be in the top 10 in the UFC before I sign that new one.
Love it. You have some more time now, as you mentioned. Obviously, can focus on other things. Do you get in any TV time at all, or any video games, anything like that? Like, what are your downtime? I know you're a dad, but do you get any time for yourself at all?
When I do, I like to go play poker.
Oh, cool.
I like to play poker a lot here in Oklahoma. We gamble. So Texas Hold'em is, like, I guess, would be my hobby. Everybody asked what my hobby was. It was always fighting, but now I do it full time. So I would say that Texas Hold'em is what I like to do. I hang out with my friends. Don't do a lot, man. I'm really not that, like, outgoing a guy. Like, I don't go fishing a lot or hunting or anything like that, even though I'm a Okie boy. But I enjoy playing poker and fighting, and I'm an athletic guy. I just enjoy athletics. I'm always out and about doing something, whether it's running, working out, or physical stuff. That's who I am.
Since you brought up gambling, obviously the reason your opponent, Jeff Molina, your original opponent, is out of his fight is what's going on with his coach, James Krause. One of the things that came down, aside from Krause obviously being, sort of exiled from the UFC, is that they are not allowing fighters, managers, or coaches to be able to bet on themselves, like to win. Is that something you think is fair, or do you think fighters should be allowed to bet on themselves in a fight?
Well, that's tough. The reason I say that you probably couldn't is because then you could throw the fight.
Well, but that's what I mean, though. Like, you would, that's why I preface by saying you would bet
Yeah.
yourself to win. You obviously, if you bet yourself to lose, you got a serious problem. You should probably be thrown in jail. But if you're betting on yourself to win, and that's happened, there was a fighter, Justin James, who used to fight in the UFC. He betted his entire fight purse on him to win, and he ended up losing a split decision. What do you think about that?
Yeah, okay, yeah. We put it in those terms. Like, if you bet on yourself to win, why? Yeah, why shouldn't you? That's why we take these fights, And like I say, everybody asks me when I get a fight, "Do you think you're gonna win?" Nah, man. I just took the fight. I thought I was gonna lose, man, and I just want the
Yeah.
payday. No, like, I take every fight I take is because I think I'm gonna win. I'm gonna finish my opponent, and I think I'm the best. But yeah, I think we should be able to bet on ourselves. And, like, for like 2 years, I've been fighting with DraftKings. Like, when I joined the UFC, I got kicked out of DraftKings immediately, and
Really?
so.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, other fighters have been dealing with it. And then when I retired, they told me I had to stay out for a year. And then after my year of retirement, they let me back in it. And then as soon as I entered USADA, I got
You got a
kicked out.
phone call. They're like, "Hey, man, we got to take your account away again."
Yeah, no, they let me play football and other sports. When I go to the MMA portion, it won't work. It tells you
Interesting. Okay, so they're really on it. Yeah, okay, that's
yeah.
understandable. Yeah, I guess, because obviously the UFC just came out with the policy officially now, saying that they can't do it. That's interesting. Hey, Jimmy, this was awesome, man. I really appreciate you taking the time, man. We're looking forward to the fight. It is UFC Fight Night, January 14th. You don't want to miss it. If there's anyone you'd like to thank before we get out of here, any sponsors, or if there's any social media you want to promote, I'll give you the last word.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on. Yes, everybody, please check me out January 14th. I want to give a shout out to all my sponsors. You can also follow me on the Instagram at The Brick MMA, or you can type in www.thebrickmma.com and it'll take you straight to my fan page. So shout out to my biggest sponsor, Harvest Health. Shout out to Industrial Motor Services, Tulsa Sport Acupuncture, Evolved Health, Palmer Law, Primary Collectibles, Broadway Barbershop, The Parlor, Hair and Ink, and International Crematory Services, Inkwell Printing, HKA USA, Forza Combat Sports, Ryan BJJ, and CrossFit Sand Springs. I can't do it all without them. I can't wait. January 14th.
Love it. Awesome, man. By the way, I got to mention this as a Canadian. We have a furniture store in Canada that's like pretty big. It's like a big chain. It's called The Brick. I don't know if you ever knew that.
That'd be dope, dude. I'm
Yeah.
branding myself now with The Brick. That's why I got the patent for the
It's smart, man. You got to keep the brand going. If you ever fight in Canada, you got to find a brick and take a photo outside of it. I think it would be hilarious. That would be a good meme or something, right? So
Yeah.